Hello and welcome to a video. Um, I want to talk about, initially I was thinking I would talk about how to stay sane as a rideshare driver. Um, my conclusion, just to do the spoiler reveal, is that you can't you can't do it. It's unfortunate, and but the reason why that is because of the passengers. Um, and it's because most of the people on the planet are, or at least half, let's say, are insane. Mentally unwell. We could say it that way, right? Spiritually unwell. And why is that? Well, it's because this is a unjust world. This is not a world where justice reigns. It's a sad fact, and it's one that you can avoid for a long time, I think, mostly through addictions of a variety of sorts. But as you start to disentangle from your addictive patterns and try to heal and get clear, um, you will come up against the conclusion, the recognition that this world is very broken, but it feels even closer, better, more satisfying, truer to say this is a sick world. This is an unjust world is another component of it. You know, I heard gentleman Dennis Prager. He's got a company, I guess, educational institution called Prager University. Conservative. I think he's Jewish, but it's kind of a conservative media company. Anyways, I saw an interview with this guy, and one of the things he said is, I forget if he was asked if why he believes in God or if he believes in God. And he said he did, and he gave a very interesting justification or explanation. And he said, part of why I believe in God, or maybe the whole reason, I can't remember, is because of how gravely unjust this world is. I'm adding some emphasis here. I don't know if he said it this way, but and how unrequited that longing for the satisfaction of justice goes on this planet, how it's justice perpetually deferred, it's justice unaccounted for, it's justice unanswered. It is, yeah, that so much of the world that we experience here is unjust, and that justice so often, unfortunately, does not come in this world. God, that's a painful thing. I wish it were not so. I would never, ever, ever design the world this way. Forgive me, God. Forgive me, God. I'm well aware of my cosmic insufficiency to make a statement like that. But just from point of view of a human heart that hurts and sees injustice everywhere, feels the burn of it frequently, daily, many times daily, I just would never do that. I just would never, ever, ever do that. And it's not fair. This is not a fair world. I forget exactly where I was headed with this, but I was talking about trying to maintain sanity doing something like Uber. And you can maintain something like functionality, I'm convinced. But functionality tends to be synonymous with spiritual death. It doesn't have to be that way. It certainly doesn't have to be that way. But you will find this, that something like economic or professional functionality, the shadow of that is spiritual death. And when you come to value truth and integrity and spirituality, healing, you will bump up against untenable, unbearable realities about the world that we find ourselves in. It's awful. I would never do it this way. I would never do it this way. It's awful. And yet here we are. Again, it's a hard message to even, in a sense, arrive at, because you can just stay on the treadmill. You can't do it forever. Eventually, something in your life breaks down, because we're not robots, ultimately. We've been put in this robotic world driven by these inhumane forces, and yet we've been given a human heart. It's one of these just really sad, again, I'll just overemphasize this word, awful dimensions of this experience here on earth. To be given a human heart and a spirit and a soul, and to incarnate in a world that is hostile to that, violent to that, antithetical in many ways, oppositional to that which we have within us. It's awful. It's a horror show in many ways. And so you stay addicted. And it's not so simple as a lot of the overnight enlightenment, overnight healing, overnight salvation stories would have you believe. No, you're up against forces that are it's I feel I almost trivialize it trying to put it into a sentence. The magnitude, the scale of the horror on this planet. But I'm thinking about it in terms of this rideshare experience that I've been doing. I'm a good driver. I'm a hard worker. I'm a decent person. Now, Christianity poo-poos that kind of a statement. I get that. It's not about one's decency, one's goodness. All have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. Okay. There's some theological rationale behind a statement like that. And of course, none of us is God. None of us is Jesus. But I value goodness. I value kindness. I make efforts in that direction. I work on healing myself so that I'm not transmitting my pain onto others. Obviously, I'm very, very imperfect. Okay? Very imperfect. But it's a value, something that I intentionally work towards. I've given my life over to. And that's rare. Very rare. Very, very, very rare in this world. I lost my train of thought there. Just so frustrated right now. But yeah, I guess just being a decent human being. That's where I was going. I'm a good driver. I'm a hard worker. I'm a decent human being. But you end up interfacing with and onboarding, bringing aboard indecent people, bad people. There's a shocking statement, right? Not eternally bad, not intrinsically bad, not inherently bad, but bad people, awful people, inconsiderate people, violent people, rude people. I got scammed today. The app itself had some major glitch, which I should have stopped at that point because there's a certain strategy that I use that helps me to mitigate much of the madness of this app and of making money this way. And it's a great feature that the app has. It's one of the saving graces of the app. Failed today. It failed spectacularly. I should have stopped there. But I thought, well, maybe, just maybe, I'll roll the dice and fortune will favor me. I don't think so. But let's test the waters and see. That's something that a lot of psychotherapy encourages. Don't talk yourself out of stuff. Test the waters. It's rarely as bad as you think. Well, sometimes the apprehension is valid and justified. Anyways, I did. And I ended up getting scammed. I knew I was getting scammed, but I've just had such a string of bad interactions doing this job. Getting chewed out, hostility, rudeness, ratings bombed for their inappropriate behavior, physically threatened, having my car attacked. It's like you run the risk every time you stand up and you put your foot down and you call out a scam or you call out bad behavior. Because the world doesn't hold people accountable, because people don't hold themselves accountable, you have to be the justice in this world. Now, not entirely, not ultimately. I don't think I ever wrapped up that point about Dennis Prager. Let me tie it in here. So he said one of the reasons he believed in God is he said, just because there's so much injustice that goes unaddressed in this world, I have to believe in a larger context. I have to believe in a larger context that there is a God who is just, who will settle these scores. And that's a helpful thought for sure. I have a sense that there's some truth in that. But man, that's the long game. And unfortunately, we were given a finite, not really short, but a finite amount of time in a finite human body, in a finite human consciousness where we experience time linearly, in a linear fashion. And so we have to suffer through those injustices for eons, for the stretch of our time-bound existence. Now you have that hope in a greater justice, but in the day-to-day, you just get pummeled. You just get pummeled. And so you can take justice into your own hands, and I do that often. But there's a cost. There's a major cost because people aren't going to hold themselves accountable. They will run their confusion, their pain, their manipulation on you. They'll just run it on the world because they're lost, they're confused, they're unaccountable. You can take a kind of sentimental view of, well, or you can take there's ways to kind of let them off the hook. I don't want to do that. Yes, it's true. We have hard lives on this planet. But the buck has to stop somewhere, right? At some point, one has to, in the course of a human life, wake up and say, I didn't want this pain. I didn't want to be treated like shit by parents, by caregivers, by educators, by police, by whoever it was in your life that did you wrong. And they did. And they were wrong to do it. And they should not have done it. And it's messed up that you had to go through that, that I had to go through that, whoever had to go through it. But at some point, we either just keep perpetuating that on each other, or you start to take accountability, meaning you start to heal, meaning you start to grieve, meaning you start to cry, meaning you start the process of de-addicting yourself. And people don't want to do that. That's where the accountability lies. Not that you wanted or invited all the messed up stuff that this world has to offer. But are you going to transform it? If you don't transform it, you're going to transmit it. Is that what you want with your life? Is that what you want to do with the world? Is that what you want to do to other people? Apparently, for the majority of the population, the answer to that question is yes. That's what I want. That's not what I want. And so that means you have to be the justice. I don't want that either, because it's like the scale is a kind of absurdist tragedy. The scale of the injustice versus the lone light. It's like I'm just trying to think of I'm thinking of like an ant or a fly compared to the ocean, right? An ant trying to drink the ocean dry. You just won't be able to do it. You'll drown. You'll be crushed. And so it's absurd, really. And there's not a great resolution to it. Welcome to this planet, right? I pray. I invite Jesus into every moment. Jesus, please. All the crazy stuff that's happened before, fine. But just please help me in this next interaction. Either prevent somehow the stars from aligning, that I get a maniac in the car. Please just prevent that. I'm doing everything I can in my investigative, upfront due diligence, preemptively to prevent that. Risk mitigation. Please intervene, Lord. Don't let this be a maniac. I do that. If somehow, as it seems to be the case, we just keep getting maniacs, speak through me, Lord. Live through me, Lord. Guide me. Help me. Help me here, Lord. Help me. Help me. Guide me. Protect me. Keep me safe. Live through me. Speak through me, Lord. And so I do that quite often. But the blowback is something to contend with. Because again, people have lost their minds. They're just not in control of who they are, their senses. They're these basically just kind of addictive patterns moving through the world and behavioral issues moving through the world, right? And so you get the people in your car that are hostile, that are rude, that are on drugs, that are drunk, that are manipulative, that are scamming. And you stand up to that, to the criminal mindset, to the unethical mindset, to the harmful mindset, to the hostile mindset. And because most of the world doesn't do that, and it falls on you to do that, you're going to face blowback. Or you're going to be run by that pattern, and it's going to hit you, and you're going to get manipulated, and the resentment's going to build. And some of that you can let go of, some of it you can release. But there's a saturation point for all of us. And yeah, I did a video recently about I got attacked. Guy attacked my car, just lost his fucking mind. This drunk man, 7 a.m, flies into a blind rage when I ask him to leave my car. Just goes insane. Starts. I won't get into it all again, but it was brutal. And so you start to think, like, is it worth it for me to interrupt at this point with this scam? I knew I was getting scammed. And so my options are pull over, end the ride, let this person out. The people that do scams have very low, high manipulation, but low impulse control. And so you out it, you out the scam, you out the manipulation, you shine light on it, they lose their shit. That's emotional damage coming at me. I'm tired. I'm overworked. I'm overstressed. How many of these... It also puts you physically at risk. You don't know what a maniac's going to do. Puts your car at risk. In a sense, I think that's the bigger issue for me. I don't want to get attacked physically. I don't want that to happen. In part because you could end up dead, right? People who have no morals, no scruples, they don't care who you are. They don't care how hard you work. They don't care if you're a decent person, how much effort you've put into bringing light into this world. They are narcissistically they're so self-focused, so it's such a primitive developmental stage that they just, I'm not even sure how to say it in a strong enough way that validates the depth of the frustration and anger I feel about it. So I won't even try. But just to say, you don't know how far that violence will go. And people with no impulse control, zero other focus, zero capacity for perspective shifting. Um, Outside of the selfish involvement of their own mind. Anyways, I don't want to be physically attacked, just in that sense that you don't know how bad it could get. But I think, and this is going to sound crazy, but the bigger thing for me is I don't want somebody to fuck up my car. I've put so much of my time and energy into this, into trying to shift my life circumstances, into trying to change something for me. And a big part of that strategy, big part of that hope for me has been this vehicle. And Satan, the enemy, has done every possible thing to make that not happen. I could give about 20 different specific, amazingly bad attacks that have come against me and my vehicle in a very short amount of time. I thank God for any protection that I've received along the way, but I have to say, I invalidate my own frustration here. The fact that I've had to confront all of that in such a short window of time is brutal. It should not happen that way. Again, it should not happen that way, right? In a fair world, it should not happen that way. But I think that's the bigger issue for me. I've put so much time, effort. I've been dragged through the mud to get this car up and functional and have a car. And every step of the way met insane opposition. Like just uncanny opposition and insane shit happening to my vehicle. That it comes down to, when it comes down to, okay, do I interrupt this pattern that this maniac in my car is foisting upon me because they have no character? It's a total lack of character is another way to say what I'm trying to describe here. This person has no character. Now I could just give them the rest of the ride. It's a stupid scam. They get into the vehicle having booked one ride, and then without asking the driver, they extend the destination way beyond what I've accepted, miles and miles out. So I'm way out of zone. They do it because it's cheaper for them to do it and then adjust, shorter ride and then adjust, I believe. And also because these people live way out in the boonies, they're not getting rides, or the cost of it. I don't know exactly. I've read different things and I've got different data on it, different ideas. But first of all, it's possible, I suppose, that somebody could book a ride and have put in the wrong destination. A likely scenario, if it's an innocent mistake, it's going to be a very close by destination, like they accidentally just got the wrong thing. Or maybe we're going to a store or something and they put in a McDonald's, but it's a different McDonald's. That would make more sense. That's one thing. The other thing is they would, with just even a basic bare minimum of courtesy, which, shock of all shocks, 50% of this planet just doesn't have that level of ethical, moral development. It's sad. It's really sad. But a basic, very cursory, elementary level of courtesy would say, let me ask the driver. I'm asking them to change the destination. Let me just ask them and make sure it's all right before I do this. That's another telltale sign, if they're not doing that, that this is a scam. And this is twice now that this has happened to me. And I've called it out in other circumstances. But again, the call out is a major fucking risk, unfortunately. And I don't know, I guess because I've been under attack in so many ways. And for whatever reason, I just said, when they changed it, didn't say anything. Okay, there's another telltale sign I want to get to. Let me come back to that though. Let me finish this thought. I told them, I said, hey, next time I need you to tell me if you're going to change the destination. So this time we'll do it. One nice thing about doing these rides is bad rider, last ride with that rider, because you can block them. But there's an endless supply of insanity in this world, unfortunately. But I won't have to deal with that particular rider again. That is a nice thing. But you should never have to deal with this to begin with in an ideal world, right? Another telltale sign, both of the times this has happened, it's both been women. I've been trying to notice trends. Men, for the most part, are, I don't know if this is totally, let me just say it and let me see if I can balance it out. But I think it's true to say that for the most part, male passengers are better passengers. They also tend to be, like, the worst ride I've had was a male passenger, because male hostility has an edge of violence to it that female hostility doesn't have. And I think that's just like a biological fact. But a lot of very rude, ill-mannered, hostile, passive-aggressive, manipulative, those sorts of rides, women, almost 100% of the time. I think that's the majority of the bad passengers. Well, I don't know. I don't know if that's totally accurate, though. I think they might just be different ways of being bad passengers, and it might be more even than I'm saying it. But anyways, both of the times that I've been scammed with this scam, it's been women riders. And both of the times, they come in very, very friendly, in a way that immediately irks you, right? Like, I don't know you. Why are you acting so familiar, so like over the top, so friendly? I have no fucking clue who you are. You know, a kind, cordial, hey, how's it going? Good morning. Or appreciate the ride, or great, beautiful. That's like, you know, just common courtesy, decency, you know, that's great. But there's this other thing that happens, and I clocked it both times, but didn't recognize what it was about until I was well into the scam. And it's a tell. It's definitely a tell that I now feel a little bit more informed about. And what, because they want to, it's just a manipulation tactic, and women do that. If you're a woman watching this, hopefully that's not you, but it's different, I guess, social strategies. And women, because of certain biological realities, tend to, you know, where stereotypically a male strategy could be something more of like a threat of violence, women tend to emotionally and socially manipulate. Again, it's just the shadow side of femininity, let's say it that way, because I don't want to say, and it's the shadow side of masculinity. You know, it's like just different strategies. Anyways, I'm not even sure that. What am I trying to say here? Anyway, I think the point I was just trying to make is that should have been a giveaway from the beginning, and it did set me, it did make me uneasy both times. This kind of overly friendly thing, and you only recognize it afterwards, piecing it together. Is like, oh, because they knew they were about to do something manipulative. They were trying to manipulate my mood, my emotions, such that the blow of the scam would register in a lesser way. And it kind I don't think it really worked. The first time, it was the first time it had happened to me, so I just didn't really understand what was happening. Um, this time that it happened, the yeah, the energy of the person was weird, this weird laughter, this weird overly friendly engagement. I hate to say it, but the age, kind of overall presentation. I picked him up at a casino. I tend not to have good experiences picking people up at casinos. It's only happened twice. But anyways, so you just feel bad. You feel dirty. I feel sick right now from this experience. And what I should have done, because yeah, God, it's just so, irksome. Lord, may your justice flood this planet. You can't expect me, with my brokenness, with my confusion, with my inability to, and lack of desire to figure out the machinations and the manipulative crap going on in other people's minds. I don't want to bother myself with that. I don't want to become hypervigilant, Lord. I could be more hypervigilant, and sometimes I get into that mode, and there's just like a zero bullshit meter, and I just am overly on top of every little fucking slight. That's not healthy. I don't want to live that way. Lord, your will be done. Find your way into the heart of this confused human being that I picked up today. Bring justice into their life in the way that makes sense to them, and transform it such that they atone for the evil that they bring into this world. They stop hurting people. Bring justice into their life, Lord. I don't know what that looks like. It's not my job. I'm ill-suited to the task. I can't live that way. Now, I pray every day that you speak through me. And in retrospect, or next time it happens, what would I do different? And I have done this. Anyways, I think the move to make is I'm just going to pull over. Part of it is you're dealing with traffic, you're already in motion, you've already committed, you've already like so many steps down the road. It's like sunken cost fallacy, right? That's part of what they rely on with these scams. It's hard to I couldn't really, while I'm driving, navigating, figure out exactly where the stop was. And so I think the thing to do is, I've done nothing wrong in that situation. I need to be clearer about that and pull over. They're likely going to speak up and say something and say, I'm so sorry you didn't take the step of asking me as your driver, if it was okay to do a change. So unfortunately, since you didn't do that, I'm going to have to stop, and I'm going to have to analyze, and I'm going to have to see if this destination still works for me. Any bit of attitude, they're out of the car. I've got it all recorded, and I can remind them of that. Again, you're putting your life on the line when you intervene with somebody who lacks character, lacks impulse control, who's willing to manipulate and hurt people that they've never met. That person knows nothing about me, and yet they're willing to harm me, harm my livelihood. That's what's so cheap about people who lack character. They're cheap, and it's cheap what they do to people. And they may lose their shit, and they may take it out on me, likely on me, at least verbally. You got to expect that. But again, the thing I worry about is they go ballistic on my fucking car. And why is that? I need the car to make money. I'm locked into a cycle right now where I need this fucking car to make money, right? And the damage they do to that car impacts everything I do downstream from that moment. That's just a reality. They do damage, let's say, and I have to go through some kind of insurance process. Hugely stressful to do that. I've been doing that. It is a massive, is the word opportunity cost? It's just a massive cost to you psychologically, emotionally, to your time, to your money, because there's always a deductible, right? And that's a whole nother issue. Deductible with, I don't even want to get into that, but it just sets forward this process, which is massively complicated and stressful. The moment that I incur damage to this vehicle, not that it can't be remedied, but that the remedy will be a major disruption for me. Setting up a time and a place, the cost of now not having a vehicle, now getting it, it's like, is it worth it? Typically it is for me, and typically I do it, but man. Anyways, self-therapy, doing these videos, right? And maybe somebody else can feel validated by the anger coming through, the frustration, and that I'm trying to articulate it in a clear way and highlight, put my finger on the injustice of this world. Now, that doesn't lead you to then be a vigilante, okay? Violence is not the answer. You understand it when you confront routine injustice. You understand it. You understand why people break and become violent. And this might piss people off saying this, but that too is a lack of character. You get violent back. Now there's something to do, there's something to standing up for yourself, putting a firm boundary, speaking into a moment. But taking justice into your hands in a violent way is evil. It's wrong. You're lost, brother, if that's you. You're lost. You have a lack of character problem if that's you. So you find ways to vent it that hopefully aren't harming people. Anyways, I'm done talking. Take care.